Hello? Is this live? I think this is. Fantastic. Wonderful. Okay. Fantastic. Are we good? Are we good on sound? Are we good on sound? All right. We're going to wait until 8 o'clock. And then we are going to start story time. Hello, welcome, everyone who's here. This is story time with Mr. Faber. We're going live because I'm made the mistake of like messing up a couple times, not getting you some stories a couple weeks in a row. So we're going to do some live storytelling time. Fantastic, wonderful. We're going to wait a few more minutes though. We're going to wait till 8 o'clock, right on the dot. 8 o'clock, we'll start telling stories. All right. I've never done live before. I'll be honest with you. So if I'm not looking at you, if I'm looking like here, if that's what I'm looking at, it's because my own image is like distracting me, like in a major kind of way. Because I mean, I'm starting gesture and stuff. I'm like, oh, did that look good? Did that look good? Sorry, just So usually I get that hidden when I record the message, or I get like a time to repeat myself, 4 or 5, 10 times before I tell the story. So now you're gonna hear the raw version, all my mistakes and everything. So I'm not nervous, by the way. Like, I'm totally not nervous about doing this stuff live. Hey, how are you doing? Kosa? All right, just a few more minutes. We'll start at 8 o'clock. Yeah. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Wow, this is going to be distracting. Like, honestly, I'm going to want to look at your chats too, but really I shouldn't look at the chats. Yeah, this is going to be live. This is my first live video, so we're streaming this directly from Bulgaria. By the way, this video has been brought to you by the country of Bulgaria. Bulgaria, a great country to live. If you want to live in a country that starts with an E and ends in an IA, please consider Bulgaria the place for you. Fantastic. Oh, man. Oh, no. Okay, but I'm giving you guys a heads up as more people show up. I guess I should wait till 8 o'clock, but I'm still going to give you a heads up now. I'm not going to do Adventures of Atticus because I didn't prepare the music or anything like that. I'm not recording it. Like, Adventures of Atticus is so extremely epic that you have to have like prep time for that. And I completely messed up. I'm so sorry, you guys. Like, I have no idea how sorry I am, for sure. Okay. Yes, I know, Mateo. Chris, you didn't know because I haven't been recording for like a week and a half. So I'm really sorry. Anyway, so yeah. So I won't say I promise because clearly I had some trouble getting here, but next Monday hopefully we'll get the next section of Adventures of Atticus going. Life will be good. So yes, this is live. All right. 35 seconds, people. 35 seconds and counting, and then we start this thing. Okay, but I'm not looking there. So if you send messages, all right, I'm not looking at your messages at 8 o'clock. I'm just going to be right here. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. I wish I had a countdown like I just clicked it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I was kind of hoping I'd hit 8. Oh, there it is. All right, sweet. All right, it is 8 o'clock. Yes, okay, fantastic. Well, welcome to Welcome to Stories with Mr. Faber. I am your host, Mr. Faber, and today we are not doing Adventures of Atticus. Today we're doing some different stories. These are real life stories, and these stories come to you from the sponsor of today's video, which is Bulgaria, the place to be, the number one place to be. That's right, America. I know you're trying to get rid of your police. You're trying to deal with the whole hashtag Black Lives Matter thing. So if you're looking to get away from all that, come to Bulgaria. It's a great place to relax and to enjoy your Banitsa Iboza. Okay, fantastic. So here is my stories. My stories actually are coming from my first couple times, my first years in Bulgaria. And let me tell you, there was some craziness in moving as an American from there to this lovely country. The first story I'd like to share with you is my language barrier stories. I really wanted to learn Bulgarian. And when I first moved from America, people were saying, oh, hey, Russian and Bulgarian are like the same language. I was like, no way. All right, fantastic. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and pick up a copy of, Russian 101 and start learning it. So I did that. I actually started learning Russian, and I arrived here, like the first day I arrived here, I worked with some kids. I was like, Здравствуйте! And they were just sort of like, what's he doing? Like, they were just giving me this weird look. So quickly I figured out, yes, they come from the same base root, Slavic language, but very different languages. So the first thing I wanted to do, I kept going to, pay my bills when I first got here, and I went to pay my phone bill, and this lovely person, she always was helping me, but all I could do was like gesture, like your money, bill, like I'd pull out a receipt or something, and she kind of figured it out, and I'd show her my phone number and stuff. But I was like, one day I'm just going to show up and nail her with some Bulgarian. So I decided to memorize, I want to pay the telephone bill. Искам да платя сметката, искам да платя сметката за телефона. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I got it. Smesko, that's the one I was thinking of. Sorry, Bulgarians, you get it. Okay. Anyway, so I memorized this line. I want to pay the telephone bill. And I had it memorized. I went up to this lady. I went up to her and I was like, Искам да платя сметката за телефона. And she was like, oh, okay, добре. She was like, okay. 16. Like she said 16 leva. 16 leva. And the problem is that in Bulgarian, it's kind of the same as in English. 16 and 60 sound very similar. In Bulgarian, 16 also sounds very close to 60, which is 60. And so she said 16, but in my mind, I heard 60. And I don't know how to communicate to her, excuse me, madam, I don't owe 60, I actually owe 16. All I knew how to say, and I'm going to give you the English version first of how I talked to her in my Bulgarian, which was, no, crossed my arms and waited for her. In Bulgarian, it sounded like this. Ne, az, ne, boom. And I waited. And this girl turned red in the face, like she was beet red. There's like 10 other people in the room, maybe 20, I don't know, because I got this narrow vision where I'm just like freaking out. And I'm like, this person isn't going to steal my money. And so she is just red in the face. She's tapping. She looks back at her manager, who doesn't speak any English either. And he's just sort of like, I don't know. And she says the number again, just nice at 16. And I was like, ne. And like for 5 minutes, I held my stance because I was not going to have someone steal my money. And so I waited and waited. This girl, I still remember, like she was on the verge of tears. Like I still remember, it makes me feel so bad what I did to her. But then finally it came to my mind, 60, 16, they're similar. And so then I grabbed a calculator and I typed 16. I was like, this, tuva. And she was like, yes, da. And I was like, oh, awesome, strodno, okay. And I paid her. But, oh, man, it was so embarrassing. And after that, I didn't even try to speak Bulgarian again to her. I just, I'd go in, she saw me, she knew my phone number by heart, she typed it in, and I'd pay her. Like, she never wanted to talk to me again, which was fine. I didn't really want to try my Bulgarian out on her again. So that was it. My first time speaking Bulgarian in the country. It was super embarrassing. The second time I was trying to speak Bulgarian. Bulgarian is awesome. And just like English, Bulgarian has words that are really close together that have maybe opposite meanings. For example, for those of you Americans out there that don't know this, ništo is a word that means nothing. Nešto is a word that means quite the opposite of nothing. It means something. So having those two words and trying to say something like, let me say it in English first. To say something like, I have nothing, imam ništo, and then to say I have something, imam nešto, is completely opposite. So when you're trying to speak and you've got these words that just sort of mix together, then it causes some confusion to the poor Bulgarians who are stuck listening to you trying to say, imam nešto, sorry, I have something, but really I was trying to say I have nothing, that kind of thing. So in this particular story, I was in a taxi drive. I was with a taxi, in the taxi. And, I'll tell you honestly, first of all, if you're an American, if you're, someone from an English speaking country, all you really have to do is, to the taxi drivers, you just speak English and they understand most of what you're saying. Okay. My mom, she shows up here almost every year. She speaks English to them. They understand enough. They get her to where she needs to go. Okay. But me, I like to try the Bulgarian out. So I'm sort of like testing it out. So I had figured out that left means liavo and right means diasno. And then straight is pravo, napravo. Okay, so I had memorized these. Okay, liavo, diasno, pravo. Okay, I got this. So I'm driving. This taxi driver is driving, and I'm directing him. I'm like diasno, pravo. Okay, so that was great. I was doing awesome. And then I got to my building. Okay, and I was telling him to go left, liavo, but I didn't say liavo. I didn't say left. I said lelavo. Now, if you're Bulgarian, you already know what that means. But if you're not, lelavo means purple. So I'm saying lelavo. And the guy's like, what? Like, kakvo? What? And I'm like, lelavo. The funny thing about that story was my building is actually purple. So really, I was just directing him to the purple building, okay? I just didn't know it. So anyway, so that's another example of the lovely language issue that I had speaking in Bulgarian. Let's see. Do I have any other language stories? No, I think that's mostly it. There are a lot of other, like there's an old guy that's in my apartment complex. He likes to talk to me. I don't know what he says, but like the first time I met him, I used the one phrase that I know very well, which is I don't understand Bulgarian. I don't understand Bulgarian. I'm sorry. That's my favorite phrase. That's what I know how to say for sure. So the first time I met this guy, he's like talking to me in Bulgarian. And I'm like, извините, съжалявам, не разбирам български. That didn't stop this guy. He kept going and going and going. And so now, I mean, it's been 4 years later. I've lived in this complex for 4 years. I've met this guy at least once a month for 4 years going up, and he's talking to me like we're best friends. And I mean, I don't want to keep saying to him, съжалявам, не разбирам български. Maybe he thinks that after 4 years I understand Bulgarian. And the bad thing is I feel like I need to to respond, So he's saying stuff like, and I'm like, da, whoo. Like I'm responding to this guy. I have no idea what he's saying. I could be saying, yes, of course, I'll take care of your son next week. Like I have no idea what I'm agreeing to this guy, but I'm just sort of like going with it. I'm like, yeah, da. So far, nothing bad's happened. It's been 4 years. We've had these conversations for 4 years now. So Anyway, uh, okay, and I should say, especially for those Americans that are watching, I am getting better at the language. Okay, I am getting better. All right, it's not perfect. I definitely am not going to speak it to you, but it's getting better. All right, so the other story that I had that was right at the beginning of the whole time here in Bulgaria. Super embarrassing story, and I'll tell you right now that this was a story that sort of at the time defined Bulgaria for me. Okay, so any Bulgarians watching, I do apologize. I understand now, 4 years from now, I understand this is not how the world of Bulgaria works. But at the time, this was what I assumed it was. So I'm at school, my first year here, and I start getting sick. And the school I was at before, they didn't have a school nurse. So for me, it was just like, you get sick, you go home, right? So I was starting to feel sick, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I should stay. And one of my colleagues suggested, oh, you should go see the nurse. And so I was like, okay, yeah, that's great. I guess I'll go see the nurse. So my colleague decided she was going to help me go to the nurse because the nurse didn't speak English. She only spoke Bulgarian. And so I go to the nurse's office. I'm the first one in. I open the door, and she says, she's like, come in. She's, in Bulgarian. And so I open the door, and immediately I sort of see inside the nurse's office that there are 3 kindergarten girls that are in the room. There's a teenage girl on one of the beds in the nurse's office, and then my boss's boss is in the back. And so I'm thinking, all right, occupied, so I'm going to just go. And so I back out. My colleague is right behind me, sort of, crowding my space, but I'm like, nope, we got to go. And the nurse catches me before I can get out. And she goes, no, come in in Bulgarian. And I know what this means. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of weird. So I go and sit down, and my colleague comes in and is standing right there. And she's like, she wants to take my temperature. So I'm like, okay, do I put it in my, and she's like, no, here. Okay. And I'm like, okay. And so I start to just put it on, over like that. But no, she wants me to put it on under the shirt. And I'm like, I'm feeling really uncomfortable because there's like 3 kindergarten girls. There's my boss's boss, there's my colleague, and there's this teenage girl. So I'm like, and I'm trying to like gesture, and she starts chanting. She's like, strip. And I'm just so embarrassed. Like, I'm like, oh, okay. I unbutton one button and I slip it under there. And then I slide to the edge of the couch on this side. And I'm like, I'm just going to wait here for all of this stuff to end. Okay. And meanwhile, I'll let you know, the adults in the room. Yeah, that's right. My colleague, the nurse, and the boss's boss all laughing at me. Okay. Fantastic. So that's great. I'm hiding there at the edge of the couch thinking, when will this be over? Like, I'm just counting the seconds in my head until I can get out of this room. And then the teenage girl who's sitting there, she looks me at the eye, and dead in the eye, she goes, sorry, mister. She told me to. And then she pulls her pants off. And I'm just like, I don't even know what else to do. I'm just hiding. My eyes are closed. I'm thinking, I just got to get out of here. I'm sick and I want to go home. And everyone is laughing at me. Anyway, so the moral of that story is, it isn't good to judge a country by the one crazy nurse that works at your school. Fantastic. All right. Let's see. Do I have any more good Bulgaria stories? Because this story time has been sponsored by Bulgaria. Let me see. I think that's actually all of them. There's definitely more. There's lots of stories I can tell you. But I think that's the only ones I can think of right now that I've gone over in my head that I know are good enough to share here. So you know what? I'm gonna end this segment with a story that's not from America. This is going to be a story that is not from Bulgaria. Sorry, lose my mind. This is going to be a story from America. This is going to be a story about me and my role with electricity. Okay. So when I was 5 years old, I'm going to start from 5. When I was 5 years old, my family wasn't very wealthy. And so my mom, what she would often do is she would sew clothing for us, or she would fix clothing, patch stuff up. I don't know exactly what went on besides the dresses when my sister came along. But when I was 5 years old, she had these sewing machines out. They were electronic. She had them plugged into the wall on the dining room table, and she would sew. And then when it was time for dinner, she would unplug the machines and just move them off the table and leave the cords on the ground, still plugged in the wall. So it was getting close to dinner time. She did that. My brother and I were playing hide and seek. So me, little 5-year-old me, went and hid underneath the table. I was hiding under there. All of a sudden, I saw the cord. And I was like, the cord has electricity in it. I wonder if I can touch the electricity. So I tried to touch the electricity. But I couldn't because my finger was too big. The cord plug thing was too small. So I went back to hiding. Then I had a brilliant idea. What if I use my little finger to try and get to the electricity? But my little finger was too small. So I went back to hiding. Then I came up with a new idea. What if I used my tongue to reach the electricity? That is perfect. So I took my tongue and shock. Oh my goodness. The shock was so intense. I was so lucky too, because the electricity caused the muscles in my arm to spasm, causing it to jerk away, because back then in the 80s, they didn't have necessarily surge protectors. So I was very, very lucky. And I was sitting there as this 5-year-old shocked from licking this plug and going, whoa, that was real. Now, if that was the end of the story, you would say, wow, he's kind of a little bit of an idiot. But that's not the end of the story. I went back to hiding, and then I saw the other plug. And I thought, oh, I wonder if that plug has electricity in it too. So what can a kid do but pick up the other plug and shocked again? Oh man, it was a terrible shock. So I had learned my lesson twice that day. And you think that would resound in my little 5-year-old mind for years to come. But it didn't. What was it? 16 years went by. I was 21 years old. I went on this trip to Guatemala. And there's two things you need to know about Guatemala before I continue this story. First of all, the average Guatemalan man, or woman for that matter, is about this tall. Okay? Not very tall at all. Which means that if you were to, take a shower, if they're that tall, then their shower heads are about that tall, which means I sort of had to duck to take a shower in Guatemala. Okay, that's the first thing you should know. The second thing that you should know is that Guatemala is such a poor country, so incredibly poor that unlike the Western world where we have massive ways to heat up our water, Guatemalans have only one way to heat up the water. Their sinks have cold water, their washers have cold water, everywhere has cold water except the showers. And the way they heat up the water is they have these shower heads that are plugged into electrical outlets, and they electrify the water going into the shower head, and the electrified water heats up, and then the water dumps down onto you after it's heated up. So that means you do not touch the shower head, because if you do, you get electrocuted with the water, and you end up in some serious trouble. So here I am in Guatemala, always chancing my entire life, hiding under these shower things and making sure I'm ducked down low enough. Well, one day I'm looking up at the shower head and I'm thinking, wow, it's incredible. Like when you turn on showers in Guatemala, the whole house lights start to dim at the amount of power that goes into the shower head. Like that is an incredible amount of power when you have all your lights dim just from that. So I'm looking at the shower head and I'm like, that's incredible. How dangerous, how deadly something is so close to you, and yet this is how they live their lives. And then as I'm looking at this metal shower head, I look at the metal pipe connected to the metal shower head, and I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if it's true. Like if they're really saying that this cold water comes in, electrifies, and heats up, because scientifically it doesn't really make sense. Wouldn't the water electrocute you as it fell down? Like it all didn't make sense to me. And so I was thinking, okay, to prove that they're telling the truth, I should touch this metal pipe connected to the metal shower head. And if it's cold water, then I'll know it's true. So I go to touch the pipe and I get shocked because the electricity is going through the metal pipe. Now, again, I'm super lucky. For those of you that don't know why electricity is so dangerous for you, it's mostly to do with your heart. You can have electricity pulsing through parts of your body and it freezes up your muscles. But your heart sort of goes in a rhythm like this. Thump, 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 thump. And it's got to go in that perfect rhythm. Now, when electricity passes through it, a random electricity, then it causes your heart to do this. And when it does that, then your heart tends to stop working and then you kind of die. That's a problem, right? So my heart is here on the left side of my body. I was lucky enough to touch the pipe with the right side of my hand, as well as have my right foot touching the metal drain pipe, which meant all the electricity sort of shot down the right side of my body. So I was really lucky. And if that was the end of the story, you would be like, okay, you got to really stay away from electricity. But that's not the end of the story. I'm sitting there shocked, shaking, 21 years old in this shower in Guatemala going, I'm so grateful that I'm still alive. And then I look up and I see that I left a soap mark on the pipe. So what can a guy do? The only thing he can do. Which is not to turn off the shower and wipe off the soap mark, not to ignore it, not to do any of that stuff. No, my plan was brilliant. It was going to be, I'm going to wipe really quickly and beat the electricity. This is me as a 21-year-old. I finished college, okay? I know how fast electricity is, and yet I feel like I can beat the speed of electricity and wipe off the soap mark. And so that's what I do, getting shocked for a second time. Now, the good news is, since my 21st year of life, I have not touched electricity willingly or accidentally or otherwise. And the lesson of the story that you should learn from that is don't touch electricity. It's dangerous and it really hurts. And that's the end of my story. Thank you so much for listening. And if you're here listening to this live stream, thank you for joining me for this first live stream. I hope it was enjoyable. Hope the sound was not too bad and that I didn't look too much this direction at myself. Yeah, thank you very much for listening, you guys. I will really try really hard next Monday to get that next version, that next episode of Adventures of Atticus out so that you can continue enjoying it. And until then, we'll see you later. Bye.